Welcome back to the Voices of Women Summit, where in honor of International Women's Day 2026, we are raising the voices of hundreds of women so their messages can be heard. Your host for this session is Judy Wong. Joining us from New York City, she is the Life List activator and proof that dreams don't expire. She's got another amazing guest coming right up. Take it away, Judy.
Oh my God, do we have the most amazing human being to start off our day? I am so excited about this. Melissa Franks is here in the room with us. Melissa, I am so excited to have you here. You are going to tell us all about Give to Gain, reclaiming capacity in women's leadership. Oh my God, I need that. All right, so yeah, I'm listening. Melissa, please tell us, how did you get to this? And why did you get to this?
That is a great question. I'm very happy to be here today, Judy. I am a retired C-suite executive from the Fortune 100 world, and I now own my own business. So I've really done that midlife pivot that many women. I'm also a single mom of 3 boys that are all teenagers, and as I was growing my career, there was a healthy balance between climbing the ladder and all the things that it took and raising them. And what I found was that I was exhausted a lot. And as I got more successful, the tactics and tricks and the competition that I was doing wasn't working anymore. And as the only woman in the room, the youngest executive in the room, I was a diversity hire, and everybody was waiting for me to fail. I knew I had to try something different, and that was really where I leaned into the concept of sustainable leadership, which is really driven based on mentorship and collaboration, visible thought leadership, which makes a few of us uncomfortable. And as soon as I did that, I really unlocked that growth plateau and had a wildly successful end of my corporate reign, and that is now how I lead today in my small business.
We don't realize as women about leadership and understanding what that means, and the weight that we carry.
Yeah.
So tell us, how do we deal with this?
I think that's a great question, because we often think that the ones that are the most successful are the loudest, the most intense, have the most energy, right? And the reality is that's not necessarily true. The ones who are burnt out are often the most capable. And they're the ones that need to understand these concepts the most, because when you are able to lean into sustainable leadership, which is really just that your model works when you're not in the room, and we all need more of that, right? It helps you grow your influence, your income, and your impact. That's all that it really, really does. And so when I was a COO, I had been a COO for 2 years, and I took a vacation, and I took like an off-grid vacation. Like, self didn't work, they could not email me, it was sink or swim kind of a situation, right? And then I got norovirus week 2, so I was actually out for 3 weeks, which was not planned. And when I came back, I was incredibly anxious. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be buried in work, and there's going to be thousands of emails. My inbox was real quiet. There were no fires, there were no urgent decisions, there were no quick fixes, like nobody needed anything. I had to go pull them into my office to have one-on-ones, and what I found was things had been running just fine on their own. And that is because 2 years prior, what I realized is that I really needed to mentor the team. I had inherited all of these people from 8 different leaders who'd been there forever, and they were at the end of their career, so like stuck in their ways, right? They did not want to do anything. And all that was happening was that they came from different team cultures and leaders, and there was different expectations. And then as soon as something went wrong, they started pointing fingers at each other. And nobody took ownership. It was a blame game all around. And I was in my hotel room one night thinking, I need to fire them all. I need to fire them all. That's the solution. And I'm like, that's really not the solution. I can't do that. Like, that's really, I mean, it is, but I could have. And so I said, nope, what we're going to do is we're going to build leaders. And mentorship is the first pillar of really sustainable leadership, because it builds your succession plan. It removes the reliance on you. And so with that team, it was 2 years in the making, but I clarified values. I defined behavior, I coached individually, I rewarded them doing exactly what we wanted to do. And hardest of all, I delegated decisions and then I backed them, even when I didn't agree, all of the time. And that 2 years later, when I was unexpectedly out for 3 weeks and I came back and nobody needed me, was the result of me spending all of that intentional time mentoring. And it bought me back time. It gave me a vacation where I didn't have to stress and worry, and I didn't come back and, 2 days, sometimes you come back from the vacation and you're like, I'm more exhausted than I was before I took the vacation because I'm now having to deal with the choice to get out. That wasn't my reality anymore. And the team itself was thriving because we'd promoted 75% of the organization at that point. And I was COO there for 3 years. We retained 90% of the people. So not only was I winning, but they were winning. And I was a diversity hire in that role, but I became invaluable because the organization had rallied behind me. They knew that I could get results through them. And so they kind of followed the leader in the path. And when I stopped being the bottleneck, I really eliminated that level of exhaustion that I was feeling previously.
So how do you feel like, so give us like exactly what do these women need to like think about stepwise? Like, let's break it down into like the actual.
Well, there's really 3 pillars to sustainable leadership. That phrase doesn't make a lot of sense, but really what it means when we boil it down is that the impact of your leadership is felt, experienced, and realized when you're not present. It means that as your team or your clients or your colleagues, et cetera, enter a room, the seeds that you've planted, the impact that you have made has that ripple and it goes all the way through. And the 3 most effective ways to do that, because let's be real, like what's the tactics? How can we get this done? Is mentorship, which I just talked about. Visible thought leadership is the second one. And then building strategic alliances or collaboration, depending on which way you want to talk about it. Depends on how competitive you are. And we talked about mentorship a little bit, but what I want everybody to consider very tactically is that visible thought leadership is one of those areas where we get really scared. Because one of 2 things happen. Either if I give my ideas away for free and I share my information, is somebody going to steal it from me and call it their own? And so then we tend to hoard out of fear, or we feel like that's just ego. It's bragging. I'm the know-it-all, and nobody wants that either. And the reality is, when we talk about sustainable leadership, and I just had this experience last week, is that your lived experience, your knowledge, is the solution for somebody else. And when you don't share that information, they're struggling as much as you are. Just last week, I was with a client. We were literally in the middle of a natural disaster. I'm not joking. And I was working the event. So I wasn't on stage. Nobody should have known who I was, aside from just another human in the back room giving them water, right? They need to know I was the COO of this, 8-figure company. And during the breaks, they kept coming up to me and saying, can I ask you something? What would you do here? How would you structure this? And it was because they knew from observing, from watching what was happening, from the interactions I was having, that I was somebody with the answers. And being able to give them that 2 minutes and unlock those things is exactly what visible thought leadership is. It's not standing on a stage and, sharing all of your thoughts or getting really pushy in a meeting. It's just you sharing your lived experience, because the reality is that ChatGPT and Google are never going to replace what you know and what you've experienced and what you've done. And the only way that you're going to be able to pay it forward to everybody else and also uplift yourself is being able to demonstrate that. And the third pillar is collaboration, right? And this is just as cliche as it sounds, you need to find your people. We, Judy, as you and I were talking about, as the only woman in the room, you are outnumbered. You've got a target on your back. Some people feel like you haven't earned it. They're like, what, prove to me that you belong in here. So you get into this model of, I'm going to smile and I'm going to be polite and I am going to compete like nobody's business, right? So we hoard information, we push to stay ahead, we protect relationships, we work late into the night, and we're exhausted. And really, if you can find just that one person. I had a BFF, my best finance friend, who was the CFO. So he was kind of one that I collaborated with. I had somebody else on a client side. And as soon as we collaborated where we were getting stuck, where we weren't moving, where I was getting really frustrated and felt ineffective, became highly successful activities. And it was because I just kind of sought out the one or two people where we were aligned, we wanted the same things. If we worked together for the common good, we could do things. And sustainable leadership in this lane builds ecosystems, not empires. So really, you have an opportunity to think about, who am I mentoring right now? And what's the reason for that? Like, what are they getting out of it? What am I getting out of it? Where am I sharing my experience and helping others see that there are solutions right in front of them? And who can I go build a bridge with? And what can that possibly, result and benefit both of us? I just want to encourage everybody to really, the underpinning of all of this is build relationship. Get in conversations with people, really have authentic, genuine collaboration moments, because that's when you're reinvigorated with the work and why you do it. And the more your purpose is tied to what you're doing, the better you feel and the less exhausted you are.
We had all those boys, Lord knows.